Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our second webinar for the virtual PreMed conference series in May. I'm your host, Tanya Neely, and I'm also joined by a couple of our staff in Office of Student Affairs and Admissions, Ms. Tria Smith and Ms. Teresa Silva. We're really grateful that you've taken time out of your schedule to be with us today to take part in this event and learn more about UTMB's medical school curriculum. So following the presentation, we will entertain some of your questions. If you would be so kind to leave them in the Q&A feature, not in the chat feature, we'd be able to answer those later after the presentation. So I would like to introduce our guest today. Our guest speaker is our very own Dr. Lisa Elferink, and she is the Assistant Dean for Educational Affairs. She's also the Director of our Instruction Management Office. So I'd like to welcome Dr. Lisa Elferink.
Thank you, Latanya. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's seminar. So I've been tasked with the job of actually sharing with you information regarding our medical curricula here at UTMB, which we call the Integrated Medical Curriculum. So as you know, medical school actually uses a lot of acronyms, so I will be referring to the Integrated Medical Curriculum as the IMC. And I look forward to having your questions and helping to answer them as we get through this presentation. So we'll probably hold off for any questions until we move through the presentation. Okay, so, whoops, we are not, there we go. So what are the basic things that we need to know about being a physician? We want you to know knowledge. We want you to be very knowledgeable physicians when you graduate from our school, very learned, appreciating lifelong learning. Medicine is not a static career for anybody, none of the healthcare professions are. And so that we want you to actually engage the process of learning and actually learn the skills to continue to learn during your careers in the profession as a clinician and as a physician. We want you to actually understand clinical skills, to be very adept at your clinical skills, not only for your patients, but also be able to teach others. So the know it, do it, show it kind of scenario comes in here. And very, very importantly, we want you to also have the attitudes and behaviors which we think are befitting of a physician. And so those would include a high level of professionalism, empathy for those that come to you to seek help, and a very collaborative nature towards actually working with each other. So the goals of the IMC, and I apologize that, let's see if we can take that out the way. The goals of the IMC courses are as follows. We have an emphasis on content acquisition and problem solving. So we'll be providing you with scenarios as you go through your classes here at UTMB, especially in the preclinical years, of case scenarios that our faculty have actually treated in our hospital and then have developed curricular educational modalities around. So we have a very strong emphasis on problem-based learning, PBL, which I will discuss a little bit more in depth after this slide. And we also take a very interdisciplinary learning approach to how we actually help you develop the skills to learn the vast knowledge of information you will need to know in order to succeed in your chosen profession as a physician. We have a very, very heavy emphasis on the acquisition of clinical skills from day one when you come into our curriculum. And I'll share a little bit about a brand new course that we developed last year and implemented in our curriculum called Meta, which provides that opportunity for you to actually determine what core skill sets you have, what you're good at, and the areas for improvement. And so the faculty will give you feedback and help you over the next 4 years in our curriculum to become very adept in those skills. We like to link basic science to clinical relevance always. So as you probably know, the underpinning of medicine is in the foundational sciences. And the foundational sciences continue to change and evolve at a very, very rapid rate. So we try to ensure that you are always connected to the foundational sciences as you move through the curriculum. And as I had emphasized a little earlier, we really, really put a strong emphasis on teamwork and professionalism. I want to emphasize teamwork especially because when you graduate as a physician, you will not be the only person responsible for the care of your patient. You'll be working with a wide number of different people from different healthcare professions and different specialties. And as a cohesive team, you will take care of your patient and treat what ails them, as well as manage their diseases as they continue to come to see you and seek help. And at all times, you want you to be professional, not only with your patients, but also with your colleagues, and also with the students that come to you to learn the skill set that you've mastered, so you can pass on the craft, so to speak, of medicine. So problem-based learning, we refer to it as PBL. It is a patient, a problem-centered approach, and it's also student-centered. It's very small group oriented, and it's integrated across disciplines. So typically what we do in the preclinical years 1 and 2, all of your organ classes and all your foundational classes will have PBL groups where you meet in a group of about 8 students with 1 faculty. And you'll be provided with a case around a patient presentation, for example. And you will work through the case, and the facilitator will be observing you. And as you come across questions or concerns you have in the case, you'll be identifying what we refer to as learning issues, and that will be your homework for the case on that day. You'll then go off either as a team or independently, and then come back in your PBL groups a couple of days later and discuss your findings, and then move through the case a little more. And as a collective group, you'll be able to solve the problem, identify a diagnosis for the patient, and then also a treatment plan. There also might be cases where you're given a diagnosis for a patient, and you have to then work through what the follow-up would be on that patient with a chronic disease. The whole time that the facilitator is working with you in this group, the facilitator will observe you. They'll make notes, they'll provide you feedback on how you're doing, if you're well prepared, if you're communicating soundly with your peers, if you are being professional, and if you're working as a very concerted part of the team and contributing to what the team is trying to accomplish. So we really, really emphasize collaboration in these cases. So it's very active learning, very focused, and as a group collectively, you will drive how quickly you learn the material and how you apply it. So each PBL group is going to be a little bit different. And you might turn to your faculty and say, I don't understand this concept. I do not understand the atrial fibrillation and what the underlying complications are associated with that. And can you guide me? And the facilitator might say, well, I think that'll be a great learning issue. So I encourage you now to map that learning issue. What is it going to be? Does everybody else have an answer for this in the group? If you do not, the whole group will then go away, do their homework, and come back and provide more knowledge to the group to move on. Okay, so let's look at the year 1 and 2 courses that we currently offer in our curriculum. So I spoke about META, mindfully evolving, thriving, and advocating. So as I said, we use lots of acronyms in medicine. Okay, this is a very new course that we implemented last year, and it was very successful. The whole goal of this course is to actually introduce you into becoming a physician and what the profession of being a physician is all about. So we want you to be mindful about what your role will be in the profession of medicine. We want you to be able to evolve and actually learn more opportunities in medicine. We want you to be able to thrive and develop, not only as a very, very smart person, and we know all of our students that come into the curriculum are very smart individuals, but as a more wholesome, more rounded individual, and to advocate not only for yourself, but for that of your patients and your colleagues. So to really get into that mindset of what being a physician is. You'll go into a gross anatomy radiology course, which we refer to as GAR, where we still do cadaver dissections, and we actually start introducing you in GAR to some early clinical interventions, where you'll actually do you might do an intubation on the cadaver and understand all the different organs that are around, and if there's a problem, what could be the problem as you dissect away to see if that particular patient actually had some anatomical abnormality that prevented you from doing the tubal intubation. You'll go through molecules, cells, and tissues, MCT, pathology and host defenses, PhD, and then you'll start onto your first organ-based course, neuroscience, human behavior. The whole time while you're doing these courses and moving through this in a linear fashion, you'll also be engage in a course called Practice of Medicine, Year 1. We refer to it as POM 1. And this is where you learn the hands-on activity of being a physician, how to actually communicate to a live patient, how to actually perform a physical examination on a live patient, how to actually touch a person in a professional manner, because it's not inherently obvious all the time, how to put a blood pressure cuff on, how to actually put a stethoscope on, how to actually take a pulse, how to do the very basics of what a physician is required to do. As you move then into your summer, you have opportunities to do summer preceptorships. This will allow you to either go and shadow physicians in an area that you might think that you really want to actually graduate and become a specialist in. Alternatively, you have opportunities to do some research at our university, and we can talk about that a little bit more in some subsequent slides. And thirdly, you can actually do a vacation. If you actually feel that you're at a point after the first year of year 1 that you need to step away and have a little bit of a break, we really encourage you to do that. So that gets back to going back to the roots of meta, to actually be aware of yourself as a physician and what your needs are, so you can get that balance of work, study, and life, okay, to be a wholesome physician and person. You'll then move into year 2, where you'll do cardiovascular and pulmonary as a course. Then you'll go in to look at renal and electrolytes, gastrointestinal nutrition, endocrinology, reproduction, dermatology, hematology, and musculoskeletal. And of course, Practice of Medicine Year 2 will be running the whole time through here, where you'll build on what you've learned in POM 1 to again become ready to move into your clerkships, so that you start actually interacting directly with patients in our hospital. So what does a typical week look like in years 1 and 2? Whoops, my apologies. So here we have a 5-day week, and we have the mornings and we have the afternoons. So you would typically in a year 1 course start off doing your small group problem-based learning. So you would get with your group 3 days a week. You would start here with a scenario or case. You would build on it with learning issues, more learning issues here. And at the end of this PBL session, you might have a graded quiz that will contribute to your grade for the course. Following the problem-based learning, you would have some basic science large group sessions. There can be any number of different sessions. We have lectures. All of our lectures are recorded for students, so they can go back and look at them. You have laboratory or basic science application sessions. We do a lot of team-based learning in our curriculum right now, which is very active learning. And we can talk a little bit about that more in the future. And in the afternoons, on the days where you're not doing your PBL, you'll do your Practice of Medicine small groups every other week. And every alternate week, you'll be doing your clinical site visits, or you'll be doing some session skills learning in the afternoon. So you have a full day, but you'll notice we have lots of open time built into the curriculum, so that you, more importantly, also have self-directed study opportunities. So what are the special aspects of the IMC in years 1 and year 2? Well, we moved to a pass-fail grading system about 5 years ago now. I think this coming year will be our 6th year that we've been using that, so we don't rank our students within their preclinical years. We've been using customized exams from the National Board of Medical Examiners in all of our courses in years 1 and 2. This includes midterm exams as well as final exams. You will be working with faculty, which are both medical doctoral faculty as well as PhD faculty, such as myself. So you'll go through all of your courses in years 1 and 2. We have virtual microscopy, so that you really get a sound understanding of histology. As I mentioned, we have cadaver dissection in our GAR course, our Gross Anatomy and Radiology course. And as I said, one of our very talented faculty, Dr. Rastellini, has developed a scenario of different clinical skills that you'll perform on each of your cadavers during the 8 weeks that you perform this course. So you'll do, as I said, an intubation. You might also do a spinal tap. And the whole purpose of this is not so that you get it right the first time, because we believe you actually won't, because you're brand new medical students, but to understand the process, understand the anatomy involved, and just think about what you're actually doing. There have been some times when I've been over at the lab and in an intubation, students can't get the intubation tube in, and it just come to realize that they're using the wrong end of the tube. That happens, okay? Better to do it in the dissection lab and not to do it on a real life patient. So you can see we segue you through the curriculum before we have you actually start interacting with our patients. You'll get a lot of clinical experiences from day one. You'll be doing this either with simulated patients or mannequins primarily, and you'll be out on clinical site visits as well, where you'll be supervised by faculty and you'll be shadowing them. And so you'll get a lot of experience that way. We also have a lot of interprofessional experiences that we can share with you in a couple of slides coming up. In terms of our national board data, our step 1 scores have been and continue to be very, very strong. Our mean scores remain above the national average now for over 4 years. And the passing, percent number of students passing on the first take for step 1 also remains above the national average for over 4 years. So we're very proud of that, and we're very delighted that our students have been able to accomplish that. Okay, what do the year 3 and year 4 courses look like, our clinical years? So we have undergone, or Dr. Farr, the Assistant Dean for the clinical years, has undertaken a massive restructuring of what we'll be doing in our year 3 and year 4 courses moving forward. So we will be, as you come out of finishing up your step 1 board exams with a passing grade, you'll transition into the clerkships, and you'll do a transition to clerkships clinical skills course. This is a brand new course which will be 3 to 6 weeks long, in which we'll be retesting you on your clinical skills before you move forward into the clerkships, where you'll have more direct interaction with patients within our outpatient and inpatient settings. You'll do also an internal medicine, family medicine integrated clerkship. We're very excited about that. That's something new in the curriculum. And you'll do an internal medicine inpatient medicine clerkship as well, which is a rotation where you'll actually be working with a team, a specialized team in internal medicine, to get a sense of how internal medicine works and all the different options there for career choices. We have blended our neurology with our psychiatry clerkship this year, and we're very excited about that, to have a neuropsychiatry clerkship. There's a surgery clerkship, pediatrics, and obstetrics and gynecology. You'll also notice that we have a POM3 course functioning the whole time during year 3. Now, unlike the clinical years where POM1 and POM2 is a required course, POM3 is not a required course. So we recognize that students are very, very busy with their clerkships, and they're moving around to different sites in the area. But we maintain Practice of Medicine 3 so you can remain connected to your faculty. And what happens is the faculty will actually meet with their cohort about once a month. If it's needed to meet more often, they will, and they'll discuss different things in medicine. And it might be women in medicine. It might be how to build towards a career in psychiatry. All those different questions you might have, and you'll get that one-on-one mentoring from the faculty, as well as you'll be able to build relationships with other students in the curriculum that have similar interests. So we try to match you up in your groups. Oops, here we go. In year 4, you have an acting internship, which you will need to complete. Something called Basic Science Humanities Selective, which is a requirement for graduation, where we have you actually work on a project with a different number of faculty, and faculty put out, I would say, about 60 to 70 different opportunities each year for students to choose from to complete the selective. Lots of opportunities. You can even probably build something with the faculty if you're interested. Transition to residencies. So you'll get a course on how to actually do that. Emergency medicine will be another course you have to do, and you'll have an advanced clinical rotation where you can do some more rotations in an area that you really, really, really want to match in, so that you can increase your opportunities for a successful match. And again, the whole time during this, we have Practice of Medicine year 4 working in the background. It's not a requirement, but it's there if you need it. Okay, other special aspects of the Integrated Medical Curriculum, the IMC. So we have a diverse number of educational experiences. We have community-based clinical experiences for you. So we have experiences for you in League City, which is just about 30 miles northwest of us in Galveston Island on I-45. Basically, NASA is basically the landmark for that. And we have a hospital in that area, and we also have many, many clinics there for outpatient effects. We have the University of Texas Tyler that you can go to. This is a fairly new contract. We've been working with them for 3 years now, and we're getting a lot of good feedback from the faculty there about the quality of our students, which we're excited about, as well as a lot of feedback from the students on how much they are really enjoying their clinical opportunities up in Tyler. St. Joseph's Medical Center in Houston is another site. And of course, we have our brand new hospital, which has been open now here in Galveston for just a couple of years, called the Jeannie Seeley Hospital, which we're very excited about. And you'll get many opportunities to be in that hospital. You also have other urban, suburban, and rural opportunities if you're so inclined. And we have a lot of national and international aspects of the IMC for you to actually do some clinical experiences in. And we'll talk about a little bit about that in a while when we look at our tracks. So our primary geographical sites for students in our curriculum are in Galveston, Houston, and in Tyler, Texas. Other special aspects of the UTMB. We have a brand new health education center, which we refer to as the HEC. So this is a $90+ million facility, and there's a picture of it here. It truly looks like the picture. So even though this is an artist rendition, it is a really lovely building. We opened it last year in August. It's 160,000 square feet, which just means it's really, really big, guys, okay? It's got 5 floors of different areas for you to do a lot of clinical skills training. It has a simulation hub, which is human-based and non-human-based. So we use standardized patients which have been very carefully trained in different clinical scenarios for you to interact with. And when you interact with these patients, you'll be in learning environments where you'll be recorded and you'll receive feedback from the standardized patient, as well as you'll receive feedback from others that are observing your videos so that we can help you with any skills that you might be struggling with. We are working on future AR and VR spaces for you. We're very excited about what those will be able to offer us. It's a very collaborative environment. So this is not just for the School of Medicine. All the schools across campus utilize this facility. And we do a lot of interprofessional activities with students from other schools so that you learn how to work in teams and what other members of a team can bring to the table for you as a clinician, for you to work together to help your patients. And so it's all based around very, very active learning. It's also just a very, very pretty building inside, if I might say. So we have a lot of our students who are actually just hanging out there now. We have cafeterias in there, we have lounges, we have private study rooms and private study halls. And we can actually have, I think it's almost 400 students in any one session. We can combine in very large rooms around small tables with multiple screens. So it's very exciting for us educators, and our students have been loving it this last year. So other aspects of the HEC, so for interprofessional education, there is a little group called IPE Scholars, which is students that are interested in interprofessional education, and they work together with faculty in the HEC to develop learning activities and learning modules for all the different schools across campus. So we're really excited about that. We've been running a program for a long time called What's Wrong with Warren, which is a patient that has a presentation. And again, you work as an interdisciplinary team at your table. There'll be medical students mixed with graduate students, mixed with occupational therapy students, with PT students, with school and nursing students, to actually decide what is actually the diagnosis for Warren and what would be the best treatment and management plan for Warren moving forward, and what would be each individual's roles in that process. So a very, very rich learning environment. And we have IPE communication courses as well that might be of interest. So in terms of the clinical training, you can see we use standardized patients that have been specifically trained. We use taskmasters a lot and have. So one of the really lovely things about the HEC at the moment is we actually have a full operation theater that is set up with very high-end mannequins for emergency situations, so that we don't just teach you how to interact with a patient that comes in with a presentation, but also to recognize when a patient is in crisis and this is an emergent situation that might actually require surgery, and how you would actually function under pressure and how you can actually practice some protocols. So it's used by lots and lots of different individuals across campus, also our residency programs and fellowships. Research opportunities. So we have a medical student summer research program, the MSSRP, that allows you to basically do a number of different research electives. So you can apply for the program if you don't want to have a vacation in summer and research is your thing. And I'm a PhD, so I'm like all for research. And you could do either clinical research, you could do bench research, or you could do in silico research, or you could actually do some med ed research if you're so inclined, depending on which faculty that you actually form a collaboration with. And so we really encourage you to do that. And at the end of that, we actually have all the students give a poster presentation on their findings, and we give awards out for that. We have an honors program. So as I said, you can do clinic, basic science, humanities, and translational research topics that might be of interest to you. I can also add that we also have the Galveston National Lab here on our main campus on Galveston Island. So this is a very high level containment facility, a B4, and we have a very large infectious disease program here at UTMB. And so if anybody's interested in infectious diseases, which is somewhat ironic at the moment, given that we have the current pandemic and COVID-19, and our researchers are very actively involved in not only researching what is going there, but we have now become one of the primary sites for testing in the state, because we've developed our own tests, and we're also testing out of state now. So that's how well our researchers are doing. You can have research opportunities in that facility, which are very unique, and you won't find at any other school. So those of you who are interested in dual degree program, so an MD is not enough, and you want to have an MD and another degree. Okay, so you have 5 options. You have the MD PhD program, which is very competitive, and you have to apply for that independently of the MD. And if you want information on that, any of our ladies that are here helping to host these sessions will be able to provide that for you. You have a medical humanities program, which is very popular as well. So this is a master's in medical humanities. We have a master's in public health. Now, typically that has been a 5-year program where you do your 3 years of medical school, and then you would do your master's degree in your 4th year, and then you'd finish up what would have been your 4th year of medical school, and your 5th year move on. Last year, one of our departments implemented a new form of the MPH MD program where you can actually complete everything within 4 years. So we're working very, very closely with that program at the moment so that we can ensure that your medical education stays on track, and that we can work with them so that you can get your master's studies done and completed in years 1 and 2. So we're very excited about that opportunity. You can do a Master of Science in Clinical Research, and we have another program which started about 5 or 6 years ago, which is a Master's in Business Administration, and this is a collaboration with the University of Houston and Clear Lake, which again is just 30 miles up the road, but I think much of it is done remotely. So lots of opportunities there. We have a very large number of tracks that might be of interest to you guys as you look at different schools. Some of the ones that I think are truly unique to UTMB is we have the aerospace medicine track. So this is collaboration with NASA. So many of the NASA astronauts actually come to UTMB for their health care. And so we have developed a track, a research track that you can enroll into so that you can actually work with people at NASA to do aerospace medicine. So that's super exciting. We have a bilingual health track, which is focused primarily on Spanish. And in this track, as you go through preclinical years 1 and 2 and your POM 1 and your POM 2 courses, that you actually get to have many of your sessions in Spanish. So people will be assessed for their fluency in Spanish, and those that are extremely fluent will be able to do problem-based learning in Spanish. And so we translate all the cases to Spanish, and we have faculty that are fluent in Spanish. So again, that you can keep those skills up and learn the medical language that you need to know when you're addressing one of our bilingual. Not as good at Spanish, but you would really still like to participate. You can do that in the POMs, where as long as you hit the metrics, it'll be more of a conversational Spanish, so that you can actually, again, develop those skills for when you're in the clinic. We have a very good geriatric health track. We have global health, which is very popular with our students. This is a program which is being developed under the tutelage of Dr. Matt Dashow, and he's an amazing individual. We're so fortunate to have him. And this allows you opportunities to take some of your clinical skills rotations in your preceptorships between years 1 and 2. And so you have opportunities to go to different areas around the world. We have programs now in Chile, Dominican Republic, Kenya, and I think there's another one that he's building on at the moment too. And it's very, very popular with our students. So you go out into these different countries in remote areas where you'll see a lot of things that you normally would not see here in the United States. And you'll learn a lot of hands-on skills on how to help those patients and educate them in modern medicine. There's medical humanities. The physician healer track is very, very popular with our students. This is a track that has actually won several awards statewide and nationally. This is a track that you go into as a year one student and working with physicians, develop that awareness of what it means for you to be a physician and how to take care of yourself as a physician, so that you can continue to take care of your patients. And why would that be so important? Well, we know that there's a lot of burnout in medicine, as there are in a lot of the healthcare professions these days. So we want you to be able to recognize it not only in others, but in yourself. And they teach you different ways for you to relax, to focus, breathing exercises, and you'll be doing this with faculty. So that's another great mentoring opportunity for you to learn from. We have a strong public health program, our rural healthcare program, translational research, which I emphasized infectious diseases, but we also have addiction and whole lots of different areas that might be of interest to you. And another track, which is called community engagement, which is kind of like the trifecta, so to speak. So this is a combination of rural health track, public health, and global health, where you get key elements of those three tracks together in the community engagement track. So that's a fairly new one that we developed just a few years ago. So with that, I'll stop sharing my screen and I will take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Elferink. That was a very insightful presentation into our curriculum, and I hope that you all are learning quite a bit about what UTMB has to offer, particularly some of the special opportunities that you can take a part in. But one of the questions I have for you, Dr. Elferink, was posed before, but with the new developments in medical school education and in our response to COVID-19, what has been our response?
So I'm actually very proud of our response as an institution. I'm proud of the faculty that we've been working with. I think we've been very innovative and very sound in coming up with curricular solutions in the face of an unprecedented pandemic. So just a couple of things. So we talked about problem-based learning, PBL, how that's a small group that happens in a classroom environment. So we've taken within a 1 week period all of our courses, PBL sessions, and have taken them remote through Zoom. So in order to do that effectively, we trained all of our faculty on how to use Zoom, the do's and the don'ts. We trained all of our students on how to use Zoom, and we developed a really lovely collaboration between our faculty and our students in pulling that off very, very effectively. So we're very, very proud of that. And we did that all within a 1 week period. So we actually had the students take a spring break, so to speak, while all this was happening, and we reconfigured our entire curriculum across years 1 and 2 to enable that to happen. So we're very good at kind of responding to things here in Galveston. And my understanding is nationally that has not been the trend. So we're very proud of what UTMB has accomplished. So all our classroom activities remain online. We also have transferred all our large group activities, such as team-based learning, to an online format using webinars. And the students have enjoyed that really well. So we actually had one of our first clinical pathology conferences a couple of weeks ago that the students were very happy about at the end of second year. And that's the first time we've done that remotely, and it's been great. So we had different clinical faculty from different sites of our campus actually contributing to that and having the students working in breakout groups. We are very aware of ensuring that our campus stays very clean. So we've been installing hand sanitizers, as you all know, throughout all our classroom buildings, and making sure those are working. Our cleaning crews have been amazing, coming in and cleaning. And as we start to transition over the next several weeks to bring our students back, and we don't have a time frame for that, we're also making sure that there'll be cleaning between classroom activities. And of course, adhering to the CDC guidelines, which is no more than 10 individuals in any one area. I learned today from student enrollment that there will be some face masks that will be provided to all students. And I even think we're going to get the UTMB logo put on there. So I think that's pretty exciting.
That sounds cool. Thank you. And then, there was another question about what our plans are for the future. So if you could maybe shed any light on that.
So I think a good example of plans for the future are all the changes that have happened most recently to the clerkships in years 3 and 2. Dr. Farr has done an amazing job of working with the clerkship directors to say, what do our students need to know in their clinical years in order to graduate successfully and move on into their chosen professions. So he did a really deep dive with a lot of really smart faculty and came up with a whole new way of thinking about the clerkships. So again, with COVID-19, because we can't send our students out into different places because of the situation, we are going to be working actively towards having each student in our current year 3 and current year 4 doing at least one away rotation. And so we're working out that in terms of certain specialties where we don't have that in-house, like emergency medicine or child urology or medical genetics. So that we can ensure that our students get to have the actual educational activities that they need to be successful physicians. We're looking at what we can continue to do using a virtual platform. I think this has basically unleashed all the intellect in everybody's mind and the fervor to keep teaching and to get excited about it. So we're developing a whole new lot of online resources for students to do telemedicine with some of our standardized patients. Okay, so, and this is something that is happening now. We think it's actually very important and pertinent for today's medicine, where you would actually be interviewing a patient on your phone through a Zoom app and asking them questions and following up and then writing that up as a HMP for your faculty to review. And because we can record those sessions, you'd be given feedback on your interprofessional communications with the patient so that you can learn from any errors that you make. And everybody starts off a little rough and there's a different learning curve for different students. And we're there just to make sure that everybody stays steady and that they learn and can become the best physicians they possibly can.
Awesome. I have one more question. What specifically separates UTMB from other medical schools as it relates to medical school training?
I think there's a lot. So I think we continue to evolve our curriculum. We're not a static curriculum. I would say that the one thing that we still have and hold dear to our heart is problem-based learning, PBL. We've been doing problem-based learning for 23 years now, and we're nationally recognized for it, and we're actually very good at it. And I think our students' step 1 scores and their passing rate is a testament to that. So I think that really, really does distinguish us from many other schools. I think just the general culture of the institution, even though we have a large class of students, we have a small faculty, and the faculty are very, very invested in our students, and we get to know our students very closely. I also think that just the nature of Galveston Island lends itself to some great learning opportunities for our students, because we really do stress wellness and awareness. There are lots of opportunities for students that come here to actually enjoy the great outdoors. We're surrounded by an ocean and a bay. You can do boating, you can do fishing, you can do any number of things. There's the beach, you can go bike riding. There's many, many things. So I think it provides our students, and what we get all the time back from our students is that it's a nice life-work balance, and they feel safe here working with their faculty. Nobody is judged. We recognize that students can make bad choices on occasion and not intentionally, and we're here to help everybody. And I think the student body is very good with each other because we're past. It's just everybody's trying to work together to be the best they all can possibly be. And I think those are really unique aspects of our school. And we have a very diverse student population. Very diverse, and we've been very successful in graduating a very, very high number of underrepresented minorities from UTMB, and still the biggest producer in the state of Texas. So we're super excited about that.
Hi, Dr. Elferink. How are you doing?
Hi.
So I have a question. We're going to the Q&A section.
Absolutely.
I have a question from Amir, if I pronounce your name incorrectly, please pardon me. Question is, how will acceptances to residency change with the shift of step 1 to pass and fail?
That's a great question, Amir. I would say collectively, everybody is really, really unsure at this point what that's going to look like. It's not going to affect our current year ones, but will be affecting the incoming classes for next year. There's a very, very large national dialogue going on right now on what will that look like. I think what it will probably do is there'll be more of an emphasis on the clerkships, and there'll be more of an emphasis on the step 2 grades is what I would think at this time. And I think that is also one of the reasons why Dr. Farr and the clerkship directors have really started to think about what the clerkships should look like in the future, and why we're now deploying the changes that we've identified now 2 years ahead of our students that actually want to be graduating. So we'll see. There's a lot of national dialogue going on right now.
So we have another question from, let's see, an anonymous attendee. Do the students choose their clinical sites, or is everybody assigned randomly?
Okay, that's a great question, anonymous person, but that's all right. What we do is we actually put you into lottery. We do give you some preferences, and we do try to accommodate preferences as best as we could. It might be for family reasons, it might be for even health reasons. But in general, students are put into a lottery, and then we actually then send you out that way. But to the best of our ability, we will try to accommodate any requests.
Okay, sorry, my questions are
That's
getting
okay.
So a question, I think this was answered in your presentation, sorry. We have, can you offer any advice to students that are older, non-traditional students, especially with regard to start transcript history? I think that.
So I think for applications, you really want to focus on, if that's what the question is really getting to, and I apologize if I'm not answering what you're asking. I think really addressing that in your personal statement, and I think also building on lots of different experiences that you could have. It could be some kind of research, a lot of volunteering. I think volunteering is super important because it shows that you're very committed and you have a sense of empathy and purpose that we really want to see in our students. I think your references are going to be super important, and I also would suggest that as you prepare for your interviews, you are prepared to answer that question and to really convince your interviewer that it's not a problem, and that you are committed to medicine, and that you would be a very, very good student. Just because you have a stop-start resume and you might be a little bit older is not going to be, I think, a problem. It wouldn't be for us at UTMB. So we do have a couple of students that have come back to school. I have a current student right now who is a lawyer who's studying for medicine. So, we have lots of different individuals, lots of different age groups. As I said, we're a very diverse school, and we're actually looking for the silver linings in these situations. If there has been some adversity that led to a fairly staggered application, own that and explain how you've learned from that and how that has informed your want and your desire to pursue a medical career.
So we have one more question. Do students who decide to take a vacation instead of research or preceptorship find themselves disadvantaged when applying for residency?
Absolutely. Along your 4 years, where through your electives and selectives that you can build some other rich resources on your CV. So no, if you need to go to Australia, where I'm from, because that's one thing that you've always wanted to do, and that's the only time you get to do that, do it. Do it. Because you need to get rested, you need to have that bucket list check off, and you need to come back into the curriculum invigorated and ready to do the best you possibly can. So no, we actually, one of the things that we didn't discuss in the curriculum is we have actively built in some breaks for students, especially in year 2, as they prepare for STEP. So as of last year, year 1 students got the entire Thanksgiving week off, and this year, all year 1 and year 2 students will get the entire Thanksgiving week off. We recognize you want to be with your families, you want to disengage from the curriculum, you want to kind of like, you know, put the brake on for a bit so you can catch your breath before you come back after the Christmas break and then go into another rigorous area of study. And in year 2, we've built in several breaks now just for that purpose, so that we can depressurize you and get you guys to be healthy and well and focused. So no, there would be no ramifications for taking a vacation, especially in Australia.
I have 2 questions that are pretty much the same. So they're asking, are tracks something that you must apply to, or is that something that you have to qualify for based on your courses you've taken in the past?
So you must apply for the tracks, and the office can actually provide you information on any of these tracks when you are accepted into the school. So you apply to the school. Once you have your acceptance, if you're interested in any particular tracks, you apply for those tracks. And then you'll be interviewed, and your CV will be looked at, and so your transcript to see if you are eligible for the tracks. We sometimes get questions from students, can I be enrolled in 2 different tracks at the same time? That's a little tricky because medical school is tough enough as it is. We sometimes have some students that do that, but we consider it only on a case-by-case basis. And it depends on the individual, it depends on the track, it depends how they were doing academically before they came to the institution, it depends on how they're doing academically within the institution. So we have those discussions, we're very open, but we treat that on a case-by-case basis, but we don't encourage it. But it has happened on occasion, and the students have done very, very well.
So I have another question from James, and he asks, what types of community involvement activities or service opportunities does UTMB provide for their medical students in and around Galveston?
That's a great question, James. So we actually have, and I should mention this, should actually put on my slide, we have St. Vincent's, which is a student-run clinic here on the island, and it's just a couple of blocks from our main campus on Galveston Island. This clinic serves our underprivileged residents on the island, and it's completely student-run. There are faculty that actually function as sponsors and volunteer their time at least 2 days a week to actually work with you to help you work up these patients and to try to get them the care that they need, or at least some simple treatments to help them. So if we have an individual that does not have health care but has an ulceration somewhere, they can come to St. Vincent's Clinic. The students will treat them under the supervision of a faculty member, and then you'll get to be able to actually manage that patient's health care from the time you see them to actually the time you see the resolution of the ulcer. You get learn a lot about our community, a lot about the different people that are in our community, and a lot of different socioeconomic situations that are function within our community. So I think that's a great thing to do. I had one medical student who has since graduated that actually worked on beach patrol here on the island and ended up becoming a supervisor within 2 years. So that was that student's way of decompressing over summer and giving back to the community, and did great in the curriculum and matched very well. So lots of different opportunities. We have a lot of volunteerism organizations here on the island. It's pretty much driven by the beach. We have waves of impact where we have children, or I should say pediatric patients 18 and under, that actually apply to come to the island to do waves of impact 2 times a year. And what we do is we put these individuals, and they have physical disabilities, and they have behavioral disabilities, autism, any number of different things, and they actually get to surf in the beach. And so we have a lot of volunteer people from the island that are there helping people surf, a lot of volunteer people from UTMB helping to man the tables and ensure that the families are taken care of, and that the the patients, the youngsters continue to have a lot of fun. There's a waiting list for this, guys, because we can only get so many people on so many boards at any time. So there's an endless number of different volunteer opportunities. And if you need information on those, we can get them to you.
We have, again, a couple of questions that can be bottled up together.
Sure.
There's a student asking, what are the necessary options for students who might be struggling? A second part question is, you mentioned earlier the concern with physician burnout. Are there resources that UTMB makes available to promote mental health wellness for the medical school students? So I figured those were two in the same.
Yeah, and they're amazing questions, guys. Thank you. So yes, so we have the Office of Student Affairs, which is got an amazing group of individuals working with students, and their primary role is to help students get any health care they may need, any assistance they may need academically, any assistance that they might need financially to make sure they get actually connected with the right people in the right place and time. They're available for you 24/7. They actually reach out and meet every incoming student, I believe, just to get a baseline so that you get to meet somebody. We also have a strong faculty advising program here where you have a faculty advisor that is assigned to you, and you're expected to meet with your advisor once or at least twice a year, so they can monitor you and see how not only you're doing academically, but if you're struggling, if you're getting stressed. We have the Ask program, which is an online program where you just make an appointment and you can go in and speak to anybody, and we'll get you taken care of. We recognize that medical school is intense, as is most graduate programs, and we're here to help. So we have a lot of resources available for our students. We have our student health department, which are also available 24/7. If there is a student that happens to have a crisis, the department can be called and we'll get the help that is actually needed for anybody at this point in time. We really stress there's no stigma associated with reaching out and asking for help. In fact, we applaud it. And the MEDA course really exposes you all to all these resources so that you know they're there and that you feel comfortable doing this. So in terms of students that are struggling academically, we have a very, very robust tutoring program. I really encourage students to go and get tutoring all the time, even if you're doing well, just so that you can learn something new. And you might even end up becoming a tutor in the next year for incoming freshmen. So that gives you some exciting opportunities as well. The tutoring program works very closely with our course directors in the preclinical years. They update the tutors on any changes, revisions, and updates that have happened to the courses. As I said, our course is not static. We're always evolving them because the science changes, things changes. We have pandemics now, so we have putting that into the curriculum, especially for global health. And we update our tutors on that because what they saw the previous years changed a bit. And then our tutors give the faculty feedback on what areas that students are struggling with, and that helps to inform the course's evolution for the next year. So we work together as a very cohesive unit, doing a lot of quality improvement to not only help the curriculum, but to help our students as well. I hope that answers the question.
I think it did. We have time for maybe two more questions, and I have one, which I thought would be nice. Ernest asked, what kinds of technology will be in the practice scenarios, and how tough will the patient actors be? So I think this speaks more or less with standardized patient.
Yes, it sounds like it's our standardized patient activities. So our standardized patients are very, very well trained. So you may have a situation where you are actually interacting with a standardized patient that might have dementia or might have delirium, and they've been trained in that. You may have a standardized patient that has been trained in some form of abuse. And so you'll be put in front of those situations so that we can see, one, how you react to them and how you address them. And by the What I mean by react is in Meta, we will give you a lot of modules in the first 6 weeks, just about different ways medicine work and different patient scenarios you'll work into. We have several modules on the LGBTQ community here, and in the importance of that. Cultural differences, language differences. There's a different way that you would approach different patients depending on their religious beliefs and what conversations you might want to have with them and how you'd actually perform a physical exam. So the standardized patients are very heavily trained in that, and they will push you at times because we want to see how you'll react. And most of the time students react really well. Every so often we go, that was probably not a good choice that you made that decision, but it's best you made it with a standardized patient and you learn from it now. And we find our students do learn from that, and they then work very, very well and never have that problem again. Let's see, what other component of the question was it, Latanya?
How hard are the patient actors?
They're hard. They're hard, but they are fair. So they have grading rubrics, and just as you are recorded on tape, the SPs are recorded also, so that if there is a lapse in their training, there's a follow-up on that to make sure that it is addressed. But we don't put them in a room with you until they meet the criteria that we think are actually relevant for competency to actually be a standardized patient. They undergo a lot of training.
All right, Dr. Elferink, I know you're pushed for time, so this is the last easy question, okay? How and when do students choose their medical specialties in medical school?
So now that's a hard question to ask because it varies from student to student. There are students that come into the curriculum and they will say, I am going to be a surgeon. And I'll go, that's awesome. What kind of surgeon are you going to be? I'm going to be a neurosurgeon. It's like, that's even more awesome, okay. And then they might find in their neuropsych clerkship that it's something they actually don't like. And when they're in internal medicine, there might be something else that gets them on fire. That's okay. And then you have other students that come in and they say, I have absolutely no idea what I want to do. And that's the purpose of being in the curriculum and doing all these different courses and doing all these different clerkships. So you can actually find what is a good match for your skills and what actually resonates with you. I do have a colleague that one time had shared that they were very interested in becoming a surgeon and were actually doing some robotic surgery and knew they were struggling with it, and their faculty came up and said, I would give you full points for effort. I would even give you more fuller points if you would think of some other specialty. And they were crushed. And they talked with their faculty and they said, you know, you want to do this, but you don't have the skills, and that's okay. And so that person pursued another specialty, and to this day, they are very highly recognized nationally in the specialty that they're chosen. They're doing very well, and also they love it. They're like, I was so glad that that faculty said to me, this is not a good match for you, and it's okay. So you're all going to learn on your own trajectory. You're going to figure out what works for you. You have your faculty advisors there to talk to. You have your POM groups to talk to and to talk with each other to give you feedback. And there might be some of you that think there's no way I could be a ENT specialist. And the faculty might say, no, we think you have it. You should apply for that residency. We think you've got this. So listen to the faculty. They have your goals, they have your best interest in heart. They just want you to be successful, competent, skillful, empathetic, passionate clinicians. And we're all here to help you achieve that goal.
Wow, that was a great ending to our session. Thank you so much, Dr. Elferink, for being a part of this webinar. You've given us a lot of nuggets. I'm hoping that the information that our listeners have heard gives them more insight into our curriculum and all the special things that make UTMB a place to be at. So thank you once again. I do have a closing slide which gives you some of our contact information. So if you want to contact us at a later time, you're welcome to do that with some of your other questions we didn't get to answer. But thank you so much for being a part of this webinar.
You're welcome, everybody.
Don't forget to join us next week for a talk with Student Life and our student organizations. For all the questions that are not being answered, we will have a medical student panel for our final installment of our May series pre-med conference. That will be on May 28th. That will be also a Thursday. So you can bring your questions there. We hope to answer all the questions that have not been asked in the past, and any new questions to our medical students. That we'll have a diverse group of students that you can speak with.